everyone, welcome to Jolly Molly TV. Today we're going to work on the next section of Kimberbell's Red, White, and Bloom quilt. If you watched videos 1 and 2 of this project so far, then you're up to date. If not, you might want to go back and view those so that you can build up to where we are in this video. Where we left off last time, where we had selected our fabrics because we're doing our own fabrics for this project, and I gave you the homework assignment of pressing them all out so everything is nice and flat. So that's where we're going to begin today. If you have the kit for this project, you also have pressed out all of your fabrics and are basically at the ready to cut the fabric stage. But before we dive into cutting the fabric, I want to talk to you a little bit about quilting. And you're saying, well, why do I need to think about quilting at this stage? Well, Kimberbell has 2 options in quilting your project, so we need to think about this ahead of time. The first thing we need to do is figure out how we want to quilt your quilt when it's done. Do you want to have the top fully assembled and then quilt with your sewing machine, or have a long armor do it where you quilt around your appliques and a general design? Or do you want to use Kimberbell's quilting backgrounds and actually quilt the fabrics before we put on the applique? That is the question. And what I like to do, again, it's personal preference, is I like to pre-quilt these. So basically we're going to go block by block, and as we do each design, like say the watermelon, we're going to put the fabric down, we're going to add the quilting background design in the computer, and then we're going to add the watermelon applique design on top of that. And it's going to stitch everything out in one process. So by the time you're done with that watermelon block, you come out the machine, take it out of the hoop, and you have a quilted background and an applique block ready to go. Then at the end of your quilt, all you do is you assemble all these blocks together. The batting and everything is going to be already in these blocks in the center. You can add your borders. You can quilt those as well with the same technique. And then all you have to do is attach a back, stitch in the ditch to attach the back into the front, bind your quilt, and it's done. It's already pre-quilted. And that's how I'm going to tackle this project. I'm going to show you how to do this as we go along if you choose to do this. If you don't, and you just want to applique your blocks and have it quilted afterwards, then as we go through each video, you're just going to skip that one part where I show how to pre-quilt it. But it's your choice, whatever you like to do. But if you've never tried this technique of actually quilting the background as you stitch the block, you might want to give it a try because it's really fun, it's addicting, and when you're all done, you have basically a finished quilt and you don't have to quilt it afterwards. So I'm going to proceed with that in mind. I hope you give that a try. What I want to do first, it's kind of a little trick I learned from my last project, is we're going to go to the computer and we're going to take a look at the quilting designs, and I'm going to walk you through how to prep to do this. The first thing I've done on my instruction book is I have highlighted in yellow the blocks that have a background. So like say watermelon number 2 says background, I highlighted it. Okay, this is going to make our job a little bit easier here in the next few minutes, because I've identified all of the blocks that will potentially have quilting on them because they've labeled it background. So if you want to highlight your book just of the ones that have background, it'll help you here in a minute. Now let's go to the computer and let me show you how to select the quilting designs and what that means to you. Okay, let's go. Okay, everybody, now we're at the computer. So I've gone to mykimberbell.com, and I've actually merged it now, so it's under kimberbell.com where the quilting designs were. They used to have it separated, So products were under Kimberbell.com, and then mykimberbell.com had the quilting, but now it's all under one. But if you do still go to the mykimberbell.com like I did, it directs you to this website. And it shows you all of their fun projects. And heads up, we will be doing this one, this candy corn quilt shop. We are doing that one. So heads up, that'll be the next project. Okay, so let's take a look at the quilting designs. There's the one we're working on. So let's go to products, go to background quilting, and then it comes up with different ways to search for their designs. Let's go by project because I happen to know that they have an entire collection that they've put together for Red, White, and Bloom. So let's click on Red, White, and Bloom. And it's going to bring it up. And these are the designs that they have for Red, White, and Bloom. So if you click on this first one, this is a bundle that they have put together specifically for this project. It has 16 of the quilting designs that they have used in their sample, which actually gives you like 318 design files. The cool thing about using Kimberbell's quilting backgrounds with their projects is when you pick a design, they have included in there all of the sizes that you're going to need for their projects, because their projects will do 4x4 blocks, 6.5x6.5 blocks. They'll do 8x6s, 8x10s, and these designs will have each one of those sizes included in there. So that is a really easy solution to quilting with their projects. So if we click on this or just kind of hover over it, you can see all of these cool designs that they have included in this bundle. This bundle is $89. So if you're able to do that and want to do all of these different designs, this is an option for you. Okay? Some really cool designs in there. I decided that because my fat quarter bundle of fabric that I picked has a lot of fabrics that I kind of want to speak on their own. I really don't want the quilting to be overwhelming. I want it to be subtle and blend in with the fabrics and let the applique and the fabrics that I have chosen speak and do all of the shining, so to speak. Let them be the star of the show. So I have chosen not to get this bundle because I think some of these, even though they're really adorable, like those little cherries and little chain link, and oh, I love this orange peel. They're a little bit too much. Like, I love this one too. They're a little bit too much for the fabrics that I have. If you've chosen the fabric kit by Kimberbell, these would be perfect to go with those fabrics because you can let the quilting do a little bit of shining as well and then let the applique on top of it be the star. So what I've decided to do is I'm going to pick one or two of these and buy them individually and just use those for the majority of the quilt. Now I have, if you followed me in my last project, I have this fireworks quilted design from the Main Street Celebration wall hanging that we just finished up. So I actually have that one, and I think that one would be good on the borders of this quilt, but not really on the inside because it's a little busy. Again, because I want my fabrics to do the speaking. But I do have that, so I'm going to use this one for the borders. So I went through here and said, okay, oh, I love that one. That's a little too busy. Same with that one. Love that one. That one's a possibility. That one's cool. Little simple. That one, I might get this one for the firefly jars because I think that would be a cool quilting background behind that. I love that one, but again, I think it's a little too busy. That one, it's like a chainmail fence. That's pretty cool. So I think between that one and that one, I think I'm going to go with the plaid. The plaid is going to be a really nice, universal, subtle background. It'll have a nice quilted look. And I think it'd be fine to use on all of the blocks as the background. Like I said, unless I use the fireflies on that one. But I think that would be a really nice universal quilting for all of the blocks of the interior of the quilt. But let me give you a little bit more information on this collection if you're able to do it. If you look here, Kimberbell actually gives you a chart as to number 1, that's the watermelon block, and they used number 1, they used horizontal line quilting. So they actually give you a map, so to speak. They give you a chart here of the numbers, and then they give you a map as to where that quilting design goes. So that's really easy to use. If you get this collection, you get that as well. And then they just show you pictures of, whoops, I don't want to go to that one. I clicked on the Pinterest instead. There we go. All right, so they actually go through and give you a blown up picture. I like that one as a universal one. That one's cool too. They're all fun. Like I said, if you can do the whole collection, that's pretty awesome. And they also give you some of the size dimensions for later. But if you choose that you want to just do something a little bit more simple like I'm doing, and just maybe buy 1 or 2 of these designs, let's go back out and see where we can do that. Okay. Yeah, it's not showing the plaid here, so let's go back one more. And one more after that. And let's do all quilting backgrounds. And here it is. Oh, look at those hearts. That's cool. Okay, so here's the plaid. There's a lot of other designs on here too. You can peruse. There's some really cool Halloween ones I can't wait to use on the next project. Okay, so here's the plaid. It's going to come in all of these designs. So if you can see that here, you get all of these. We're going to be using the 4x4s, the 4x6s, maybe the 4x8s. We're going to be using the 6x10s. But see, this is the fun thing about Kimberbell is they give you these sizes. So when we're in the middle of the project, all we have to do is pick the right size and upload it on our machine. It's going to be there for us. We can use borders if we want to, or just stick with the main background of the blocks, which is what I'm thinking about doing. And $6 is a good price. So I think I'm going to use this one for the background of my quilt. But your challenge is to decide what you would like to use for the background of your quilt. If you're going to quilt this as we do each block, this is your homework assignment, is to figure out which one you want to use, purchase it, and download it onto a USB flash drive to go onto your machine. Okay, so that will be your assignment, is to figure out what type of quilting designs you would like for your quilt. And there's a lot of other ones that they have. This is just a sample of the patriotic one that I also used in my red, white, and bloom, and it comes with the same sizes. So any of these will work great for your quilt. Or if you can do the bundle, that's a bonus too. You can do the bundle and switch up and do all different types of quilting for your blocks. Okay, so one of the reasons why I wanted to focus on this first is that we also need to focus on the size of the fabric before we do the cutting. This is how what this whole video is now coming to the little peek here as to why are we talking about this now. We want to make sure that when we have selected a quilting design, that when we go to quilt it, we have the background fabric cut large enough to allow for the pulling in that the stitching is going to do when it does the quilting background. Say, for example, you have a 4.5 by 4.5 inch block, and you were to cut the fabric exactly 4.5 by 4.5. It would be a challenge to get it tacked down, but we could do it. But then when you quilt the background, it's going to pull in. So all of a sudden, your block is not 4.5 by 4.5. Okay, so the main trick to all of this is once you choose to do this and you've picked your quilting design, is we need to make sure that the fabric that we cut is big enough to allow for the quilting design. Okay, so what Kimberbell recommends is follow for the applique blocks is to follow this chart. Okay, you are first going to find the size that your particular block is going to be trimmed to. So say, for example, that we go back to the watermelon. Let me get the chart here. In the book, the watermelon blocks, I'm looking at number 4 in your instruction book. It says watermelon 1 background. They say the size is a 6.5 by 6.5. This is on the fabric requirement list. So I'm going to browse real quick to the watermelon. And the watermelon block, when we finish it up, it'll be on page 12 of your instruction book. It's saying we're going to square finish this block to a 4.5 by 4.5. All right, and this is 4.25 to 4.25. So the watermelon is a 4.5 by 4.5. So we're going to trim the block. In this case, they say 4.25. Then the cut size of the fabric we want to be 6.5 by 6.5. And I know right by here, the next block down, it says 4.5 inch block needs a 6.5 inch as well. So I know that even though this one right here says 4.25 by 4.25, I can tell by this one here and this one here and this one here that a 4.5 inch trim size on that one, a 6.5 cut, is still going to make it fit. So pretend this says 4.5 by 4.5. We need to make sure our fabric is cut to 6.5 by 6.5. Okay, so what this whole thing is coming down to is, now that I know we're going to be doing these quilting designs, I'm going to go one by one through the book and make sure that my cut size equals the cut size that they've shown in the fabric requirement on pages 4 and 5. Because we don't want to accidentally cut too small of a size of fabric, especially if you have the kit. You don't have any fabric to spare, pretty much. You got a little bit, but not enough perhaps to do another background border. So I'm going to stop the video right here for a second. I'm going to go back and I'm going to go check all these off, and then I'll come back on the table and I'll show you which ones are spot on and if there's any that we have to trim a little bit larger. So I'll be right back. Okay, so I went through all of the highlighted background blocks, and I have verified that every single one, they have the cut size spot on. I even checked it all off so that you guys can see. All of these cut sizes are spot on to what we need to cut to include the quilting backgrounds. So we are good to go. Isn't that great? Okay, so what you're going to do now, if you look at the next page, it talks about cutting the embellishments. I don't recommend this at this time because my technique for using the embellishments is I leave them totally whole as to how they came in the embellishment kit. And I will show you how to literally position them as we do each block so you can literally maximize the amount of leather and glitter sheets and stuff that we use and what amount is left over. If you pre-cut, that's great, but there's a lot of waste that you're going to have at the end of this. But if you just leave everything intact here, and I'll show you as we do each block how to position them to maximize the amount you can get out of the fabric, you might have enough left to do a pillow, a wall hanging, a tote bag, some other projects using the same embellishment kit. So I recommend not cutting your embellishments at this time. Leave that and just leave them whole. Okay. The next page we're going to take a look at is page 8. Okay. this is going to be your cutting diagram. Kimberbell has gone to the extreme length here of including this, which I think is awesome. So if you have the kit, they have literally gone through and said, okay, this is a piece of fabric that we gave you, and you're going to be able to get a 6.5 and a 6.5, a 6.5 by 6.5, and then these pieces, and this is what's going to be left over. So if you position your fabrics of the Kimberbell kit in this particular diagram on your table and on your cutting mat and follow these instructions, for the most part you're going to have some left over. Like this one you won't, but you're going to have some scraps left over. So follow this guideline. Now if you picked your own fabrics like I did, you can still follow this, because these are pretty much, looks like a fat quarter. So I would take this fat quarter, turn it this direction, except if it's a directional fabric, and do my cutting. If it's a directional fabric and you have enough, you can play as to whether you want this, like this one, the stripes going this way, or you turn the fat quarter this way and want the stripes going this way or the opposite direction. You just need to make sure that when you're cutting, the pieces that you're going to be cutting, that you have enough fabric in that fabric direction to make those cuts. Okay, so the only time you have to worry about this is if it's like this and it's a directional fabric that you want specifically. Now if it's this fireworks, doesn't matter. Okay, the stars, it doesn't matter. It only matters if you want the fabric to be in a particular direction. Then you just need to make sure that you will have enough if you turn the fabric in that direction. Okay, so you guys have got this. So I'm going to go back to the computer and we're going to talk about what we're going to do for your homework before the next video. So the last summary I want to do for you here now is the 3 things that you're going to work on for homework between now and the next video. Okay, the first thing is I need you to cut all of your fabrics based on that chart that I just showed you. You're going to go, I would recommend bag by bag, or if you bought the Amazon dry erase envelopes, envelope by envelope, one fabric at a time. You're going to cut your fabrics, basically your background, and then all of your accessory applique pieces that come out of that same fabric. Okay, so you've done the one fabric, you set them aside, then you're going to look at this chart, which is the instructions for the quilting designs. And you're going to come down here and say, okay, I have this, it's 4.5 by 4.5 right here. So I need 6.5 by 6.5 fabric. I got that, but now I'm going to need batting that is 5 inches by 5 inches. Okay, again, we're just pretending this is 4.5 by 4.5. So our batting needs to be 5 by 5 inches. So let's cut all of our batting out of your favorite batting. Then the last step is to come back here. You've got 6.5 by 6 inch. You need to cut some fusible in this size to support the stitches. We're going to fuse this to the back of your cotton fabric. So if you say it was a watermelon block and you needed 2 pieces of this, then you would cut 2 pieces the size of your fusible. Then use a pressing sheet and fuse this fusible to the back of your cotton fabric. So the 3 steps are: cut all your fabrics, your background, and your accessory applique pieces. Then cut your batting for the background piece for that block. And then you're going to come back and cut, just for your background fabrics, you're going to cut your fusible and fuse it to the back with a pressing sheet, just for your background fabrics only. Okay, so work on those 3 things and just take your time. Enjoy the process. This does take a little bit of time, so don't worry about it. It's not a race, just one by one, fabric by fabric. And I definitely wanted you to do one fabric at a time, because that way you don't have to rethink what fabrics are supposed to be for what. You've got them labeled, you've got them marked. Just do one fabric at a time, get it completed, put it in its bag or envelope, and then go on to the next fabric. All right, so enjoy the process. I thank you so much for watching this video. If you like the video, please click like and please subscribe to my channel. It's the best way you can support me. I truly appreciate it. We are almost at 1,000 subscribers, and that is just so awesome. So thank you to everyone that subscribed. And then also click the bell notifications. That way you are notified when I upload a video. That way you won't miss one. Okay? So have fun with this. Cut all your fabrics, cut your batting, cut your fusible, fuse it to the back, put everything in their baggies, and we will be ready for the next video where we're going to start stitching out these blocks. Aren't you excited? All right, so have some fun and stay tuned here on Jolly Molly TV for the next video. I hope to see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.